Your Honor, we have undeniable evidence that Chance Wilder attempted to hack into multiple bank accounts and steal money. We request the maximum penalty.
That's right, Your Honor. Chance Wilder is a menace to society, and we must put an end to his hacking shenanigans.
Objection, Your Honor. My client is innocent until proven guilty. We believe there's been a misunderstanding. Chance Wilder is a misunderstood genius, not a criminal.
Order in the court. Let's hear the defense's case.
Your Honor, I present to you Chance Wilder's latest creation, the Hacker Helper 3000. This incredible software was designed to protect innocent people from cyber threats. Chance's intentions were pure.
Objection, Your Honor. This is just a ploy to distract us from the real issues at hand.
Indeed, Your Honor. We even have evidence of Chance Wilder's hacking attempts. He's gone so far to have left a digital signature saying, "Catch me if you can."
Chance Wilder, I've heard both sides of the story. Hacking is illegal. Since you like to take wild chances, I sentence you to community service, where you use your skills for good, helping organizations protect themselves from cyber threats.
Oh man, no money and community service?
Shut up and take the deal.
Well, there's another good job done by our district attorney, just in case.
It was a team effort.
And there you go, folks. Justice was brought to Chance Wilder, but I'm pretty sure he'll be up to his shenanigans again. So tune in, and that's your tip of the day to get you on your way.
Welcome to Black and Blue, the podcast that's just for you. We bring solutions to everyday problems. We are here to humanize the badge. By interviewing first responders and discussing their trainings, experiences, and publications. Black and Blue airs weekly at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tune in.
Let's go, start the show.
And we are live. Let me get this off the screen. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you guys for tuning in. The one-man rock band is here again. We had a little bit of technical difficulty behind the scenes. You probably didn't even notice it, but we're still here. We're moving on strong. You know, StreamYard likes to do different things to me when I need it the most, and I just have to grow and adapt. But we're here live and in color, having a great time. Welcome to Black and Blue. This is the podcast that is just for you. I am your host, Coach Clee. I'm your motivational speaker, your empowerment coach, your author, and your favorite baker's favorite baker. And I'm here to host this show where we interview law enforcement officers and first responders who are either rookie, seasoned, or retirees. And when we're interviewing them, we like to hear about their experiences, their publications, or their trainings. And we got a special guest. He's backstage right now. Some of you may know him, others of you may not. But at the end of this podcast, we are going to know a lot more about him and have fun doing it. This is an interactive podcast, okay? So make sure you put your questions or comments in the comment section because we're streaming on 5 different platforms right now. We're on 2 on YouTube, we're on 2 on Facebook, and we're on 1 on LinkedIn. So therefore, I cannot see who's in the or who's on here watching the show. And if you're looking for that shout out, make sure you put your name and where you're from in the comment section. We'll give you that shout out. If you have your question, make sure you put your question in the comment section, and we'll put it on screen and we'll address it accordingly if and when we can. I understand there's about a 2-second delay from the time that you post it till the time that we see it, and we might actually be on a conversation, but we'll get to it. All right. Therefore, make sure you hit the like button because likes are free and likes keep that algorithm going, and we have a lot of fun doing it. This is the podcast where we interview law enforcement officers that if you're looking to jump into the business and be a law enforcement officer, this is your podcast. If you're trying to see how we humanize the badge, how we're real people, how we have real experiences, this is your podcast. If you're looking, you know how a lot of cops are. Sometimes we want to hear cop stories. Other times we don't. I get it. This is still your podcast. So make sure you guys tune in, tag, like, and share. We go live once a week at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we go live with a special guest, and we're going to continue to do that now. We go, this podcast is sponsored by One Way Publishing. One Way Publishing, it's not in the comment section, but it will be. It's in the description box. It's workwithclee.com. Let me get this up here. One Man Rock Man again. There's the website right there. Workwithclee.com. If you're looking to be a guest on the show, that's how you reach out. If you're looking to be a voiceover for the Sergeant Be Safe commercial like you just saw, that just played, that's how you reach out. If you're looking to write your own book, and I've written 5 of my own, and they've got many clients that have written their own. Their motto is they could turn a mere thought into a book that's bought. So if you ever thought about writing your own book, whether it's fiction, nonfiction, an autobiography, a cookbook, a children's book, whatever you may think, they could get it done from beginning to end. If it's a thought, they could get it down on paper. But again, they can explain it way better than I can. So stand by and watch this. I got to pull the file up, so bear with me because StreamYard is not letting me play what I had already posted up here. And here it is. Here we go.
Publishing. Have you ever wanted to explain something, tell a story, or leave a piece of you behind? Have you ever wanted to write your own book, but not specifically know how to do it? Well, get ready. One Way Publishing's here. We can turn a mere thought into a book that's bought. People need to learn from you. They need to hear that story. Kids need to read that book. Imagine if you wrote your own children's book and get to read it to your kids. Here at One Way Publishing, we can get your fiction, nonfiction, fantasy, instructional, what have you, done. All at a reasonable price and definitely a reasonable time frame. And if you don't believe me, ask Sergeant Be Safe. He's working on his right now. He's definitely writing the best chapter of his life. Make sure you check out his cartoon skits that air on the podcast Black and Blue.
As Sergeant Be Safe said, that's your tip of the day to get you on your way.
And there it is right there. One Way Publishing and Sergeant Be Safe. I promise you, I know you got bombarded with a lot of information, a lot of sponsorship. We got the griftins out of the way. So now we're going to jump right into the meat and potatoes of why you guys are here. Make sure you tag, like, and share. Hit that like button and share. I got a special guest. Let me get the banners ready. Bam. And boom, there we go. We got retired Sergeant Darren Burch backstage. We're going to bring him to the stage. He's a former military not officer, former military enlisted guy. He did 4 years in the Army. Whole Army leads the way, as you guys already know. He did whether it's patrol, working specialized units. I'm not going to take the shine away from him. He's going to explain all that. He's also a host of the Badge Boys podcast and TV show. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, not only did that, he's the author of, as you see it going scrolling below, Twisted But True. Not Twisted But True 1, not Twisted But True 2, but all three. He's got a trilogy out there of amazing stories. And I got to listen to the first book while I was on night shift, and I was letting Audible play, and they are hilarious, wonderful stories, and we're going to have a lot of fun. I'm going to bring them to the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we got Darren Burch. Darren, can you hear me?
I sure can.
Perfect. Darren, I appreciate you making yourself available and coming on the show. And I know that I've been talking for these past 11 minutes and 49 seconds. So therefore, I'm going to pass the mic over to you, excuse me, by asking this question. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I was a very average kid growing up. I was teeny. I wrestled 98-pound weight class.
Wow.
I was teeny. My nickname was Boo. And I, wrestling really kind of fed my soul. Track and field. I like, the whole athletics, but I was teeny, so I'm not going to be on basketball. I'm not going to be a football star. So I just loved, wrestling. I right before graduation, me and some buddies went out and kind of talked about how I was small. We were going to a huge keg party, and in a desert party, 30 kegs, backyard bands, that sort of stuff. Luckily we had a designated driver. And to date myself, this was an AMC Pacer in the 70s. And we're coming back from this party. There was too many guys and not enough girls. So, of course, a fight breaks out. That's what always happens.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. So as we're driving back, we're behind this slow-moving vehicle. Unfortunately, the vehicle behind us, which was a Javelin, again, dating myself, it's kind of like a Camaro, if you will.
Okay.
And it ended up passing on the right side of this desert road, 2-lane road, and lost control. Right as they were trying to get back on, they crashed. They ended up careening into a power pole. The transformer blew up. It was just, at that moment, as our designated driver slowing down, I had this, I don't even know what you call it, obsession, a compulsion. I had to get out of that car and run to the vehicle that was in distress, a one vehicle accident. He was slowing down, bless his heart, Ben, the driver, and I couldn't contain myself. I literally jumped out the window of the car, moving car, ran to this vehicle that had collided into this power pole and wrapped around it. I tried to open the outer door, if you will, and now knowing what we know being cops, we know that's the least likely door you're going to open.
Exactly.
And it was dark. I run around the front. I trip over something. I'm kind of like in a push-up position with my hands on the ground, and it's like mush. And it's like, this is a desert. There's no water. There's no mush. There's desert. And I realize I'm literally in this, position, this, prone, if you will, position on a body. Is this young girl who was ejected out of the windshield. And this is time before the tempered glass. So the shards of the windshield just was a meat grinder, bless her heart.
Wow.
Her wide open. She was dead right where she lay. I froze probably for, I don't know how long, truth be told, but by the time I realized what was going on, I got up, went to the other side where the impact was able to open the door. My buddies joined me. So obviously I wasn't, stalled too long in that right. shock. We were able to get the, she was the passenger who was ejected. So we first able to get the driver out, carry him to our car. Then I go in and I'm small, to my point being I'm teeny. I am so teeny. There wasn't even a discussion who's going in the car because it was such a damage that there was a small little opening to get through the wreckage. And so I get in, we get out the backseat passenger. I'm feeling pretty good about myself. We all are. We go back, and by this time we realize the car is on fire.
Wow.
It's not like in the movies where it explodes. I know that can happen, but it was a small trickle and just kind of building in from the trunk area. Again, it's a 2-door kind of car, big sports car. As I'm going through to get the last person, a young lady, blonde hair, still see it vividly in my eyes.
Wow.
I reach her, and I, you know how when you go through something tragic, time kind of goes slow.
Yeah.
You can precise thoughts. You can see the blades of grass. I mean, having been in a few shootings, things just slow down to where you just deal with it. I remember thinking as I put my hands on her, Mom is going to be so happy with me. Whoever this mom is, and I was a product of a single mother, so I guess that's why I went right to the mom. I was thinking, she's going to love me. I'm saving her princess. And I start to pull on her, and she won't budge. I cannot get her out because the lap seat belt. So, luckily I didn't freeze. I go down, I try to unhook it and depress it by a simple button mechanism. It's just real simple. And it's jammed, and that's why they changed the type of seat belts that we currently have today from the old style lap seat. It jammed. I could not open it. Now the fire has reached the back end. I'm getting, the little pricks. My body's betraying me. I'm keep reacting to the flames. I'm telling myself I got one more shot at this, right? So I go back, focus. I'm getting burned. I got, very minor scars from it. I'm able to get a hold of her. I pull one more time, and I'm just not thinking clearly. I'm thinking I can just use my little muddy mouse might and pull her out of that seatbelt, and it's just not going to happen. The simple mechanics of it isn't going to, that's why it's a lap seatbelt. It keeps you tied in, and thankfully, my buddies, I don't even know how much my body was fully into the car, but clearly they were able to pull my my tiny little shoes out, pull me out as the car is now fully engulfed.
Wow.
I'm sitting there watching her burn to death before my eyes, and thankfully she was unresponsive with me. Otherwise, maybe we might have been able to figure out something, get her out. But thankfully, she was unresponsive, and so I don't have that pain, that horror of her screaming. But the way the fires, having been a homicide guy, you know how the fire reacts with your appendages. They bow and bend and so forth, and almost like a fetal kind of thing. And that's what she was doing in the fire, just automatic, if you will, the body. And it was so horrific. I just cried like a baby. I'm just sitting there as my buddies are trying to console me, just crying. But later, what I got out of it was I was able to react to a horrific event, didn't panic. And though I realized the reality of these things, the harsh reality of these one vehicle accidents, the DUI driver survives without a blemish. This poor girl burns to death doing the right thing, being seatbelted in. But that told me that I could be a cop. It's not that I ever wanted to be a cop. I didn't watch Adam and 12 as a kid. Again, I'm dating myself with the 60s. I didn't watch TJ Hooker as an adult. But I always cared about people. I always love people, love helping. I'm the guy who would stop and help, little lady across the street, even if she didn't want to help. That was who I was. So it made sense for me to be a cop, but it really wasn't until I joined the Army as a young married guy right out of high school, got married. And there's two things my wife realized very quickly. One is she didn't want to be married. And the second, she didn't want to be a mother. So I was left with a 6-month-old baby.
Wow.
A single father, as you know, buddy, in the Army, I don't know how it is now or when you were in, but there was no mechanism for a single father. Airborne. I mean, you need to go to field exercise. You're going to field exercise. You figure it out. So I did my 4 years and got out. And the reason I became a cop, there's so many great stories out there, like with you, your father was a cop, 9/11 happens, people want to be a cop, all these good stories. Mine was self-interest. I had a young son, was still in diapers, and I needed some security. So I became a cop, but it ended up serving me well.
Wow. Interesting enough that no matter what the reason you got into the job, it turned out to be very beneficial. You learned a lot from it, and not only did you learn a lot, you're able to give back in the form of your podcast and your book. But before we continue, I want to say that heartfelt story. I'm sorry that I know that was that's a monumental moment in your life, and it's also in the book. When I remember hearing you describe it, I'm like, wow. And I'm like, how is this going to turn out to be a humorous book when we're like this?
Right.
I'm already engaged, but I'm like, oh man, this is going to be another heartbreaking. Excuse me. But therefore, you jump right into the book, and you continue on with story after story. And like I told you backstage, I'm listening to it on Audible. I'm going down one of our roads, and one of the in the areas where we patrol, and I'm listening. And I stop on this windy road. I hit some leaves, and I'm in an all-out laughter at 3 o'clock in the morning, just listening to some of these stories, some of your experiences. Knowing, well, before we get into all that, tell us a little bit about your law enforcement career. What I know you've worked on specialized units, and what are some things that stand out on some of your experiences while working in law enforcement?
Yeah, when I joined the Army, when I was in the Army, I was with the 101st Airborne. I was a rappel master. I was military intelligence. I spoke Russian, copied Morse code. I did all these sort of things, skydiving, not with the 82nd Airborne, but with some buddies who were with the 82nd Airborne. So I just assumed that I was in really good shape. For being small, I grew a little bit. I was probably $150 at that point. I just assumed I'd be going, SWAT. SAU is what the Phoenix version of SWAT is. And it's funny how you just kind of go down this, life has these streams. You just find yourself going down the streams. And I just end up loving patrol. And I won't lie, I had some, I guess you would call it PTSI or PTSD regarding the that collision, that crash, having not been able to save her. That haunted me. I couldn't wear a seatbelt. I was always out of policy as a patrol officer. I never wore a seatbelt, even though the one girl was ejected out because she wasn't wearing a seatbelt. But being trapped in the car, so I was always out of policy as a cop. I can admit it now. Statute of limitations is over.
Yeah, it's nice to be retired. You can come clean with a lot of stuff.
Exactly. Truth, right? It's so liberating. So 10 years, really, I was obsessed with saving lives. I just loved patrol. I didn't want to promote. I didn't want to go anywhere. I just want to stay in patrol and just save lives. So I was the guy who's shagging all the radio calls. When my buddies were doing all the OV work and having fun with stops and looking for dope and whatnot, I would just literally go after the radio calls, 20, 25 radio calls at Phoenix a night. Love the night shift. That's when the most life-saving opportunities, reveal themselves. And I was in a shooting early one morning as I'm getting off work, right? It's the banks just open up. It's an ugly shooting. He was a prolific bank robber. And there's one story in the book that I actually try to become a writer. When people say, you're a writer, I say, well, I'm an author. I don't know if I'm a writer, but I'm an author. I
understand.
Yeah, right. There's a distinction there. The hardest thing about writing a book is having the publisher turn your Crayola into print. That's the hardest thing. But I really did try to put the reader in my shoes in that shooting, because I really wanted to do a couple of things with that shooting. One is show people it's not always what you think it is. Every cop understands what I'm saying when I say, there's a reason why there's more shots than you think there should be. There's a reason why if someone points a gun, they're going to get shot. Unlike the movies where everyone's pointing guns at each other and just talking the whole time while pointing guns at each other. That doesn't occur, or at least it shouldn't occur.
Right.
And so in that story, the shootout where I was in, I've been shot at 3 times in the department. And this one I spent a lot of time on. But it was funny because when that occurred, and I know, surviving it, obviously, I can't say the same for the bank robber, but I got a lot of attention. And next thing I know, they're wanting me to go up to bike squad, the street crimes unit, stuff like that. I can't, if you will, hide and patrol anymore. I'm being called out, and it's one of those things like in the Army. When someone asks for you, you go. You just do. You know what I mean? It's one of those
Yeah.
things. So I ended up becoming a detective, and man, loved it. I wasn't the best street cop. I love saving lives, but
Mhm.
you know, I was no, you know, I was not a big difference maker in keeping the city safe at night. Not at $1.50. I'm not, but I love detective work. I love the follow up. I love catching criminals. I found myself working, you know, up to sex crimes because of some personal issues of life with my family. I really always had a penchant, I guess, wanting to solve those type of crimes.
Gotcha.
So I worked sex crimes. I had some homicide ones that I worked, sadly, and I just loved it. I was ready to call it a day. You know, 20 years on, I had worked everything. I had, you know, worked everything from burglary to homicide. And as a single father, I remarried a beautiful wife, had a little girl, and my son and me were just best friends. Now he's, you know, in his early 20s. I'm ready to retire. Me and him are going to go and do some video stuff. I like video work, which is kind of, you know, remember Wayne's World? I was kind of like the first Wayne's World guy, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, I even remember my spiel. But anyways, I won't bore you with that. So I would do these shows and just loved it. So I thought, you know what? That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to retire, put my 20 in, you know, small pension. And then my son passed away tragically, medical, at age 25. And yeah, it broke me. You know, I'll be honest with you. It absolutely broke me. At the time, I was working in homicide as a night detective sergeant, ready to call it a day. As I said, I had reached my pinnacle, and I couldn't do it anymore. I had my 3 days, you know, bereavement leave. I had 2 weeks, what they call vacation. The hell of vacation, as I'm saying, my my skivvies just sitting in, you know, just not wanting to live. And as I was went back to work doing homicides, and at Night Detectives in Phoenix, at least, what we did is we primarily focused on the other homicides other than the difficult unsolved murders. We would do the decoms, we would do the industrial deaths, we would do suicides. And this happened on December 20th. So in the December, as you know, buddy, suicides are bad. You know, November, December, and January is the worst time for suicides. People are either really, really happy or really, really sad. And I would be going to these suicides, looking at these young men, and I would see my son. And it was just, I couldn't do it. And thankfully, a lieutenant reached out and who I had worked for when I was in sex crimes, and said, I need someone for child crimes. And it saved my life. I ended up going to child crimes. I became an advocate in terms of those children. Different kind of cases where you could be part advocate. You know, first thing we tell them is you're in a safe place. You know, it's and then we can hand them a doll, and then we can talk about, you know, good touch, bad touch, and all those sort of things. And so that instilled in me this advocacy where I really didn't have that. I had this life-saving obsession, but I wasn't a bleeding heart kind of guy. I just wasn't, you know, put bad guys away and say, well, that's all I want to do. And now, because of child crimes, I just really embraced that part of me. And that went into my next phase, which was really the end cap of my career, which and extending to a 30-year career, was Crime Stoppers. I loved kind of doing TV and radio and so forth back in my early days. Even though I'm not tall, dark, and handsome, I'm short, pale, and average. I love the camera, even though the camera doesn't love me. I love talking on the radio. And that was a perfect gig because I had worked everything from burglary to homicide. So I could really tap into those crimes that can be best solved through the mechanism of the community. You know, your barroom shootings. Every barroom shooting, there's witnesses that know who did it. You know, so all hit and runs, you know, where you can really talk about a very difficult to solve crime where you don't even have a crime scene that drove away. Now you can talk about how the person's going to change. I remember one particular one that was devastating to this poor father. He had loads of money. He kept wanting to throw a bunch of money at it. And I'm like, hey, I just need some TV time, some live TV time, where I can talk about how this person will change. This person who drove a white truck. How many white trucks are there in the world? But I was able to talk about the time, the location, think in terms of this might be a mode where he might travel every week. You know, we have to kind of make that leap to see if we can cultivate some tips, and then talk about how this person will change, because there's more good people than bad people. Immensely so. As cops, we see the bad, right? But we even know there's so many good people. I mean, it's a small fraction of the bad that are repetitive offenders. So talk about the likelihood that this was just a normal guy who didn't have the moral compass to stop. The young man was jaywalking, you know, and so that tip, that my articulating that type of criminal profile, if you will, of wrong place, wrong time, lack of moral compass, did wrong thing, might have been coming from coming from work, it was an odd time. Nailed it. The owner called, who he worked for, said, you know, this guy, he wants to leave the country. He's, you know, from Mexico, blah, blah, blah. It was the guy. So those type of crimes can be solved through Crime Stoppers, where, you know, so I love that. And then after 30 years, I'll just be honest with you, buddy. My sad, you know, I always call it my happy meter was pegged. You know, I didn't have any more. I just was, you know, with all, you know, the PTS that you see in our job. That's why I always call it it took its toll, you know, and I was just kind of done. I noticed I wasn't as happy. I'm doing a lot with parents of murdered children. I need to be inspirational, empowering, because there is no worse loss. It just isn't. And I just felt like I wanted to avoid them more than embrace them. So it's like, I'm done. I need to retire. So I had no plan. I really didn't. And I'm sitting in the studio doing my at a rock and roll station studio, doing one of the many gigs I did as the Crime Stopper sergeant, which is a face or a voice. Better for me to be that voice. And as I'm doing the radio, I'm talking about the crime of the week, the whatever it may be. And at the end, they always wanted me to do a stupid suspect story. And I kind of like doing dumb Darren dilemmas. You know, there's so many more of those. Really, I like that. Yeah. Like locking yourself out of a patrol car in the middle of a 4-car pileup, right? So, yeah.
I was laughing at that story too, by the way. Go ahead.
How could you not, right? And again, I was so obsessed with saving lives, you know, slammed the door. And right when I slammed it, like, I locked myself out.
Oh, man.
Sirens blaring, lights going, biggest intersection of Phoenix. And I have 2 drunks. I got to put in the back of the cell. Anyways, so I digress so badly. So I tell these stories, they connect. So one day I'm coming out of the studio, and a guy walks up to me, and I'm in uniform, and he says, "You're Sergeant Burch, Twisted but True Tales," which is what I coined that segment of that gig I did. And I said, "Yeah, how are you doing? You know, blah blah blah." And nice guy. And he said, "You need to write a book." And I kind of laughed because I'm not going to write a book. Right. You know? Just a dumb cop. Come on. And he says, "Seriously, they're so funny." And this is after I've told a lot of these wild stories, like the guy who was doing a chicken in his truck. You know, talk about choking a chicken. You know, chasing a cow down the street. The one story that kills me is the Good Samaritan in my first book. If you hit that point, basically it's a guy, 2 guys go to the hospital. Both are bad shape. One had a sexual assault committed against them. So we understood. The other guy is beat to a pulp. And the other guy beat to a pulp is the suspect. But it just didn't ring true. Something was wrong with this case. As I looked at it, what happened is the guy who was supposedly anally violated, violated himself with a beer bottle, and he got it stuck. Called his neighbor, Mr. Good Sam. He comes in to the rescue. Unfortunately, it tug. It didn't work, and there's yelling, there's screaming. So much screaming that they didn't hear the victims son, who was a Marine coming home from leave, coming into the garage and beat the living crap out of this poor Good Samaritan. So anyways, these type of stories I would share, and what I would do for the radio is I would literally write them, because radio is all about, time, right? It's that's why podcasts are so awesome. And by the way, brother, you're really good at what you do, and thank you for having this platform and getting word out. So with radio, it's very fast, succinct, statement, joke, statement, joke, statement, joke. If I had them outlined, it was perfect for a book. I really could. So I went ahead and got them all together and thought, you know what? I'm going to do this as a fundraiser for the Crime Stoppers program. 100%. Donate my own money. We did such a good job when we took over. And again, it's we, right? I'm just the face, and I'm a bad one at that. My crew is the one grabbing these tips that I'm soliciting, and we end up increasing the rest by 50%. We were hurting the bank at the Crime Stoppers program. So I wanted to kind of give back and help them. So 100% went to that. Never in a million years did I think it would blow up on Amazon. I thought my buddies and friends might get it. They didn't buy it, but all these strangers did. Right? Is that weird? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that's how it works. I know.
Yeah. And so that led to me, again, getting a lot of attention on the book, which wasn't, and I made it intentionally family friendly. Even though there's a story about Good Samaritan, as you know, about the vacuum cleaner incident. Yeah, right. I mean, I'm trying to be subtle with some of these things. These are bad. That is, if you will, the family-friendly version. So I write the story, and it ends sadly with the death of my son. So the first book ends with tragedy, with the twisted metal of the car crash, ends with the death of my son, where I had to go to court on his birthday, his first missed birthday, on a big serial murder trial. And the one criticism I got on the book was what happened to him. So I didn't want to write the second book because I wanted to avoid that. I was, it was hard enough writing what I wrote. This, as you know, buddy, it was a funny book. I mean, 85% is funny. And yet I was crying during a lot of it because it brought up these things about my son and whatnot. And so I wrote the second book. And during that process, ID Channel got involved. They wanted a murder story. I told them I have one. I ended up getting on ID Channel's American Detectives with Bill Kinda, the season finale, a story from book 2. Oxygen Channel called. They wanted something. It just kind of, the whole thing blew up. I'm deciding to put the book out because now I can fix all those errors I let go, right? This is the first edition. Now we're going to have a second non-error-free edition. And so I went out and sought this local legend who's a disc jockey, just a great guy, had a great show, kind of like Howard Stern. In fact, he worked with Howard Stern.
Okay. And
went to him and said, hey, I would love just something, Dave Pratt says this didn't stink too bad, something, that as a review on the front. He did. A year later, he's thinking to himself, you know what? We have Jason Schechterly, who's this inspirational icon who has the most incredible survival story. And then we have this idiot who knows about radio, and I could put them together, and thus the Baz Boys was born. And I've had such a beautiful retirement based on happenstance, just putting yourself out there. So any advice I would give to those who are retiring is put yourself out there. We can't turn off like a light switch, right? We have a heart we give. That's what we do. So continue that, and you'll find a nice path. Wherever that path leads you, it's going to be a good thing.
Absolutely. Man, hey, that was entertaining, and you covered a lot. And we're gonna hold on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. We're gonna come right back. I got to get a Sergeant Be Safe in here real quick, and we're gonna jump right back into the interview because you dropped a lot of golden nuggets and you dropped a lot of truth and experiences, and we're gonna go ahead and move forward with that. But stand by. I got to do it the old school way because StreamYard again isn't letting me do it. There we go. Here it comes. 5, 4, 3, 2, and.
Settle down, class.
Sergeant
Sergeant Be Safe and Captain Chaos are here!
Hooray!
I'm just here to educate and keep people safe. Hello, Maya. We heard that there were some safety concerns in this classroom.
And I thought it would be a great chance to showcase my superhero skills.
Thank you for joining us, Sergeant Be Safe and Captain Chaos. We've been discussing school safety and the importance of education.
Absolutely, Miss Gaynor. Safety and education go hand in hand. Let's start by talking about school safety.
And remember, kids, safety doesn't have to be boring. We can make it fun and exciting.
For instance, take a look at this example, Maya. We're always told to walk in the hallways and not run.
Yes, Sergeant Be Safe. We learned that running can lead to accidents.
But what if we could run safely, like superheroes? That would be awesome.
That's right, Captain Chaos. We can use our imagination, but we must always prioritize safety.
Thank you for emphasizing the importance of safety, Sergeant Be Safe and Captain Chaos. Now, let's talk about the importance of education.
Education is its own superpower, Maya. It opens the door to endless possibilities.
And with knowledge, you can conquer any challenge that comes your way.
I want to learn everything and become a superhero like you, Sergeant Be Safe and Captain Chaos.
You absolutely can, Maya. Remember, education is the key to unlocking your true potential.
And remember, even superheroes never stop learning. We're always discovering new things.
Thank you, Sergeant Be Safe and Captain Chaos, for reminding us of the importance of safety and education.
It's our pleasure, Mrs. Gaynor. And remember, kids, stay safe, keep learning, and you too will be unstoppable.
And don't forget to have a little fun along the way.
And that's your tip of the day to get you on your way.
And that was a word from Sergeant Be Safe. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I'd like to give a couple shout outs to those voiceovers. However, they know who they are and they don't want me to say anything. So that's the best shout out that they're going to get for that. But we're going to jump right back into this interview. We've got retired Sergeant Darren Burch, the author of Twisted But True. And he already elaborated on some of the stories. And I don't want to go too far and dig too hard into this book because I want you guys to experience it for yourself. And trust me, you will enjoy it. You will learn from it. And some of my favorite stories, and there's many of them. Of course, we talked about the vacuum guy. And as this story is evolving and I'm hearing about it, it starts off one way. I'm like, where is this going to end up leading? And I'm hearing details and description on witness accounts and so forth and so on. And the way it starts, it doesn't finish that way. And there's the story about the masseuse. It seemed like
it was very professional.
and you hear this. And it's crazy because I can visualize. I've dealt with people on both sides as the victim or the quote unquote victim and the suspect or quote unquote suspect. And I can see people that can fit those roles. There was also the bank robber story. I know that you discussed that in the beginning as well. And again, you talk about how things slow down, how you can remember things. And at the time you think things happen one way. And then as you debrief and learn and see, you actually find out that there's so many moving parts and so many moving pieces. And by the way, I want to put this out there. In a major incident, every single officer does not need to be on the radio at the exact same time giving out needless information. I just got to point that out.
Thank you.
That's a pet peeve. I think of a lot of officers like, I'm on scene, and you're putting out. You can't get out on the radio when something's going on that you need to have priority. And so therefore, that's another story that I was like, I can relate to that just on that simple incident in itself. And I'm being very vague on how I describe it because I don't want to give too much away. Those
Yeah.
experiences there.
That's a huge pucker factor. Not being able to talk on the radio and being shot at.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I would not. I can't. I'm glad you made it out unscathed. I know that's a tremendous story to share. I cannot imagine. I don't know what I'd be more in fear, more focused, or more angry in that situation, just because of everything that was going on.
Yes, yes, and yes.
Gotcha. So therefore, you wanted to get into retirement. Tragedy struck with your son, and I'm sorry to hear that. You had a certain plan, and it evolved a different way, where now you're the host of Badge Boys, and you're the author of Twisted But True. Who is your target audience, or who resonates with your stories and your humor the most?
Yeah, great question. I wrote it thinking I'm going to be writing, to the choir, preaching to the choir, right?
Yep.
Young people that think about being a police officer. But because I like the deprecating humor, it's easy. I'm an easy target. So it's, you go with your strengths, which is my weakness. And so the deprecating humor kind of connects and helps humanize the badge. If we can laugh at ourselves and not take things too seriously, when it's okay to do so, I think and so I end up thinking I'm targeting fellow police officers, those who bleed blue, that will want to buy the stupid book and give some money to a nonprofit. In actuality, it really connected with what I call the murder moms, moms that love murder stories, murder movies. They're all over ID channel and Ox channel, so they're always getting a hold of me at conventions and conferences and whatnot. They love it because it's short stories. I always joke that it's a perfect bathroom book, because if you don't like it, 2 minutes later, there's another story. And if you don't like that one, then you can use it as toilet paper. I mean, it's the book that just keeps giving. So there's 30 fast chapters. I'm not a grammarian. They're not written like I'm supposed to be, John Patterson. It's just like an old guy sitting on the porch telling you a story. It's just because I had this obsession. I had so many of these stories. I later learned that, most cops, and I'm taking a huge leap here, that don't go 25 radio calls a night. And yet, that's what I was. I just loved going and going and going. My career went very fast because of it, but I have all these stories, and I have this little bit of a black cloud. A lot of cops know what I'm talking about. We're
you're that guy.
Yeah. And so things just like, how did this happen? And so as people tell these war stories, I kept thinking, yeah, but do you know anything about the vacuum cleaner or the beer bottle? Or, I got all these other bizarre twisted stories that just, creep you out if you can, and they're funny. And tragedy is comedy with distance, right? As long as there's enough distance, we're not going to be, I don't think I'll ever joke about Jumpin' A. Ramsey, right? But there are certain tragedies that, are funny over a period of time, especially when they're to you, right? And so I just love doing that and writing the book. And I just didn't foresee it becoming a second book, a third book, TV shows, movie in the works. It's just weird how it just kind of blossomed. And I'm sure I failed horribly answering your question, but it's funny how life takes you down these paths. And retirement for me has been truly a blessing. And I didn't foresee that. I miss my son every single minute of every single day. But it's about surviving. And after a certain point, when you survive it, then you can move forward. There's no closure. There's, these things that people say and they mean well. Comparing, I don't know how many times I have someone that would read the book and they say something like, "Oh my God, I read the end," and I've given away a lot of the books. So I apologize for that for people that want to read the book, because you don't know these things until the end. So spoiler alert. failed miserably. It should have been in the beginning. But someone will come up and say, I know how you feel. I lost a cat, and it's like, the cat is everything to you. I get it, but trust me, it's not like losing a son. It just isn't. Trust me. But if it can help people. So your question now, I talked long enough. I can remember what the question was. The target audience now to me is those who have gone through some adversity that need something to help them through it. And that was what the motive was. The second book. The first book was all about me telling a funny story, somewhat family friendly, believe it or not, in our twisted world, and telling a story and being entertaining. The second book was about the adversity. And so I went more deep into the stories. They're more perfect for ID channel and Oxygen channel and some of those things. There are cases and so forth that I worked that are horrific. Talked about my loss, what happened to my son, the details, what happened, how it happened, and how I eventually not just survived it, not just moved forward, but truly, like we do as first responders, as cops, we want to help people, save lives. And so I still feel like I can do that with this book in terms of what I found and still be entertaining. And then the third book was, well, it's got to be a trilogy, right?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, it's got to be. So the third book, in all honesty, I wrote the third one because the second one also ends at a very horrific note. Again, I don't know why I keep putting these bookends of tragedy in these. I guess that's where I go. That's how I begin. That's how I end. So the third book, I told myself, I got to make it uplifting at the end. We got to end this thing, because I'm running out of crayons. We got to end it, and I need to put it at a happy place. And so I tried, and hopefully I succeeded. So that's the target audience. It's really anybody and everybody.
Gotcha. That I appreciate that, and thank you for sharing that. I know. Listening, I was listening to an episode of Badge Boys, and I was listening to you guys as a mix on, like you said, you're Jason. I know I'm gonna butcher the name. I apologize. And he comes in with an incredible story, and you come in with the gift of gab, very humorous and all. How did you guys mesh that to have such a successful show and podcast?
Thank you for that question, because I just love talking about Jason Schechterly. And locally he's without a doubt a legend, but even in the law enforcement world, anyone's been on enough time, not the new guys probably, but if you have any time, you've been retired, who I'm talking about. Jason Schechterly, he was in a Crown Vic when the gas what do you call it? Gas tank. I couldn't think of the word tank. Yeah, I'm a great storyteller. The gas tanks would explode and on impact, and a lot of officers were injured and died. He survived injuries you shouldn't survive. He happened to be literally a block from, at that time, the #1 burn center in the country. Wow. He was literally a block away. First miracle. Second miracle. There's a fire truck on the way to somewhere on the other side of the intersection when the taxi cab collided into him at like 100 some odd miles per hour, and which turned his patrol car into a fireball. They're literally there already on the scene. Wow. When does that happen? Miracle number 2, they were the right fire crew. They knew what they're doing. They did this, I hate to use it, a fire water brigade kind of thing, where they were in a stack, if you will. They went in because they literally had to get burnt to get him out. Right. And how they would do that, right? And seatbelts are on. Luckily, seatbelts weren't the type that I had to encounter in the 70s. So all these things occurred, and then it was the right person. Jason Schechterly has this incredible will survive, but more importantly, he has this inspirational foundation that looks at anything as 5% what happens to you, 95% of how you deal with it, how you react to it. And so when I was going around getting reviews for my book, I went to, again, this local legend and said, hey, I would love this review. Would you do that? And he loved what I was doing, how it was a fundraiser. He loved how I was a local with Crime Stoppers. For about 5 years, I was the guy on TV every week, every day, really, And I had this knack for radio. I loved radio. Again, you go with your strengths, right?
Yeah.
This is my weakness. This is my strength. So we go radio. And radio, I understood the parameters of how it worked and all of that, as you well know, my friend. And a year later, he's thinking, and he's literally watching Motown, of all things. And he saw some story. I wish I could remember the band. I don't know. It was Glass Night and the Pips. I don't know who it was, but it was somebody where it was the right fit. It was the right singer with the right group, the right chemistry. And again, I apologize to Glass Night and the Pips if it wasn't them. I don't know. They may went down in flames, but whoever it was a perfect fit. It was, and he was thinking, because he had just seen Jason Sexually talking, and it's inspirational to hear him talk. And he lectures now all around the world. And at the time, he was mostly local at the time, and he was doing something on TV. And Dave Pratt was our local legend, shock jock extraordinaire. And he thought, God, I wish I could pair him with someone who knows the gig, the business, and thought, oh my God, that guy who I signed a book for was on our local radio station forever. He had his own show. It was called 50 Info, again, building bridges with community, truth to lies, if you will. Kind of talk about, bring in people that can talk about the reality of what we do and not the hysteria. And not that there's not bad cops. We all know what happened to George Floyd, the Memphis 7. I mean, we know these horrible things occur, but the more we lie about that, more we act like it's worse than it is, the less officers want to be cops, the more it's defunding, the more those scenarios can develop with people that shouldn't be cops in the first place.
Right. Exactly.
So so Dave Pratt thought, I'm going to put them together. It's a podcast, pay to play kind of thing, but he's just going to give it to us for free so we can get that message out. So a great guy who wants to get this platform. And I had always thought about, if I had a chance to do a show of my own, no time limit, right? I would have the interview, really and compelling guests. Then I would want to have just me and the co-host. In this case, we are co-hosts together, talking. And and I'll be honest with you, I present the topics to Jason because he has such a and this is not a pun, but he has such a fire. He is truly Phoenix. He just loves to talk about these things that hurt our community and try to mend bridges, building bridges between community and the cops. And then the end is funny. You want to leave it uplifting, right? It took me 3 books to learn that, but it should end on a good note. And so that's why at the end I went to the stupid suspect stories because I didn't want it to be about me. So I left the dumb Darren dilemmas in the books. But we'd come up with these stupid suspect stories with videos because now we can vet the information we get off the internet. We have the heroic headline to showcase what someone did that was, particularly. Sometimes it's, saving a cat from a tree. As silly as that sounds, it just shows us what we do every single, constantly, every shift. These heroic things are happening. And then it ends with Jason's inspirational closing message. And he just takes something and turns it into, heartfelt, sometimes heartbreaking analogies of how that 5% plays and how it's 95% of how you deal with it. So I love the show. We did it for 4.5 years. It's on a hiatus right now, so he can do his world tour. And I love doing it. Having seen what you do, I know you get it. It's having a pulpit and really, truly connecting with great guests.
Yeah.
It was a great gig. And so now that I put that to bed for the moment, right, until, nap time's over. And now I have a new gig. It's called the Badge Zone. And it deals with, the bizarre, the strange. It's completely different. It's not like a podcast. It's me on a couch, almost like a late night talk show kind of thing, with someone who's a badge who has some type of incredible story. Dare I even say supernatural?
Yeah. And that's going to be interesting enough, just from hearing how captivating your stories are. And I know your audience is going to love it. And I know we were talking a little bit. I got a little bit of seasoning before we actually went live. So I'm interested to see how that's going to evolve and watch it flourish. I'll definitely tune in. But what do you see yourself as your in-game goal? And I hate to say that, but if you could reach the highest heights of everything that you would want to do, what exactly would you do, and how would you give back to the world?
You know, I just love the idea that I've had guests on. Like, for example, there's the longest prison hostage situation occurred in Arizona.
Okay.
It was a prison out in greater Phoenix area and Florence, and the male guard was tricked. He was beaten to a pulp. He has gone through like 50 surgeries. The female prison guard was raped repeatedly by this murderer and then the rapist, and they withheld that not days, weeks. And he's never talked about it, never shared it, lived in quiet desperation with PTSD. I always say I say D so people know what I'm talking about, but it's really an injury when it's based on our job. And I had him on the show, and it took him 3 shows, part 1, part 2, part 3. Not that it was planned, but to get him to kind of open up and talk about it. And now he's writing a book. He's at a good place. I hadn't talked to him that I was going to share this, so I won't say his name. But I hope he's at a good place now. To have a pulpit to allow someone on that has an incredible story, that has value. I hate to use the word entertainment, but that's what it is, for the viewer, the listener that may not. But then there's also the cathartic need to help others as we as cops. That's really what we're doing, right? And be able to touch somebody out there that may learn from his story. And then the third trifecta is him, the guests themselves, being able to be empowered to have that voice. And that's why I love the fact that so many people like yourself and others have these podcasts. There's no competition. Have you noticed that? It's like, man, bring it on. The more yeah. And so I love that aspect. So if there is where I can, die tomorrow and say I did this, it's just furthering that so other people can put out the product, that we can save lives, that we can alter lives, that we can change the attitude towards an incredible profession that saves lives, and dispel the lies and own the truth.
Yeah. Good point. Exactly. And I know exactly what you're talking about. Therefore, I love this platform as well, having guests on the show, because it's a platform. I've had a lot of interesting guests. We talk about funny things. We talk about on-the-job experiences. Then we talk about very tragic and traumatic incidents. And it's amazing to me, honestly. I've met a lot of first responders all over the nation and a few across the world that come on the show and they express their experiences or their stories. And it's like the first or maybe less than 5th time that they've explained it in front of an audience. They talk to their family and friends, know all about it, but they've had serious situations happen that they never really got off their chest. And I'm thinking, I think I'm just grasping at common knowledge, and they're opening up. I don't want to say any names because I don't know if they're watching or not, and I want to be respectful of their stories. Of their stories. But they will come on, and I get dumbfounded because they're going deeper than I actually even knew what was going on, and it's a good feeling that I can give them a platform that they can have that relief. And then to see when I talk to them months, weeks, days after it's happened, that thank you for giving me that opportunity. I was able to get that off my chest. I didn't know how much it was weighing down on me still. And some of these stories are over 20 years old. Still, that it was weighing down on me. And I've taken steps to do A, B, and C, and X, Y, and Z has also happened. And I'm like, wow, I'm blown away just for coming on. You came on. I'm just having this originated just by humanizing the badge and having fun, and it's having such an impact. And I know, like you said, other podcasts is wide open. And they're having the same impact as well, and it's doing such a good and positive thing.
Yeah, you provide a safe place for two reasons. One is it really is a brotherhood. I mean, we didn't even know each other. I instantly love you. Seriously, because we come from the same place of the heart. We care about the community. We want to help people. So there's that brotherhood. It really is a family. And then you are so good at what you do, sir. You are absolutely very good. You're very giving as a host. You encapsulate it and put it in perspective, and you just have a really good format here. So it makes total sense that you're gonna again make such a difference in both what you do during your daytime, and then your Clark Kent to your Superman, and your Bruce Wayne to your Batman, your alter ego here in the cave.
Absolutely. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, stand by. We're gonna come right back. We got to get Sergeant Be Safe needs his shine too. He said that he wants to say a few words, and let me see which one we're gonna do here. This one right here, since StreamYard's not acting up, we're gonna go to this commercial. And can we do it? Nope, they just did it again. 5, 4, 3, 2, and.
Good morning. How's everyone doing? Captain Chaos, did you know that school bus safety is crucial for young students?
Absolutely, Sergeant Be Safe. We must protect our little heroes from any danger.
And here comes Maya. She's getting ready to go to school. Oh no! Look out, everyone!
Uh-oh, that driver didn't stop for the school bus.
Fear not. He's not going to do that in my town.
It's time for some superhero intervention.
Get him, Sergeant Be Safe.
Captain Chaos, let's go get him! Sergeant Be Safe, time to power up!
He committed a terrible offense by passing a school bus with its stoplights on. He will need to prepare to face the consequences.
Stop that car. Get out!
I'm sorry. I didn't realize the lights were on. I'll be more careful next time.
Listen, the safety of our children is of the utmost importance. Always be vigilant and attentive on the road.
And remember, with great driving comes great responsibility.
Thank you, Sergeant Be Safe and Captain Chaos, for keeping us safe. Have a great day. I'm off to school.
Maya, you have a great day at school too. I'm glad everyone's safe and everything worked out. And as for this driver, he won't be driving reckless for a long time. In fact, you might see him crawling around, going from place to place. Drivers, remember, it's that time of year again. School buses cannot be passed if the stop sign or the lights are illuminated. You could lose your license for up to a year. And that's your tip of the day to get you on your way.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I hope you guys enjoy these back to school commercials with Sergeant Be Safe, Captain Chaos. Make sure you look at the names in the credits and give them their just due. We got some Instagram stars on here as well, so make sure you like their page. Check them out. They're doing wonderful things for the community. But back into the interview. We're here with retired Sergeant Darren Burch, and we had a tremendous interview. And I know where time constraints are, but I still want to ask a couple questions because I know one of the questions we get on here a lot that either in the comment section or with the guest on the show is that there's life after retirement. So many times I get a lot of seasoned officers or even rookies that come on here and they identify as being a cop or law enforcement or first responder, and you do it for 20, 25, 30 years, you identify as being that. And then once you feel, I quote unquote, other people have said it, not me, I'm not there yet, but it's stripped away from you through the father time, and then you either have to rebuild yourself, or you don't know who you are, you're alienated, you go back to your old department, and the first couple months it still seems like you're there, but you're not there, you're just on a long vacation. Then after a few years you go back and then no one even remembers you or the other guys have moved on or been transferred somewhere else, and to the point where you're just like the old guy hanging out at the club. You know, when you're going up to the bar and you go get a beer and you see the old guy in the corner, like, why is he here? What is life like after retirement? Can you give a little bit of hope to those that do not see the light at the end of the tunnel?
Yeah, I think, we prepare ourselves to be a police officer or fire or paramedic, whatever it is. You're preparing for that job, that career field. And whether it be physical, whether it be, making sure you're not, doing stupid traffic violations. So you have, all those things. You're seriously, you're preparing yourself for that path.
Yep.
So you should do likewise for retirement. You should prepare for that path financially. You should be aware of what your finances are. If you've been doing a off-duty gig and that's part of your finances, you realize that's going to go away unless you go to reserves or whatnot. So you need to think in terms of preparing for this new adventure. And I don't say retirement per se because, I didn't think I was going to write books. I did. I didn't think I was going to be on TV. I am.
Right.
Didn't think I was going to do radio. You know what I'm saying? And so I just went down this path, but I was prepared. I didn't have any bills. A house was paid off. The cars are paid off. Kids are all, my daughter's all set.
Yeah.
And so life, I had set that groundwork as part of my path to retirement and had an idea of what I wanted to do. That changed drastically. Tragedy occurs, life happens, and that happens to all of us. We all experience tragedies, and we have to adapt and then, conquer. And so my advice to those listening that are just starting their career, realize it will be over before you blink. And I know that's a cliche, but it's true. So write down stuff. Everyone has a book in them. And even more now than ever, people can write books. You have your process. Love it. Journal. It does two things, and that just doesn't give you a possible, award-winning bestseller. It can also provide you with a voice for the dark days, and you can talk it out. And every therapist says, I'm not a therapist. I don't even play one on TV, but they always say journal. It's giving it a voice to that pain, and it's a process, and it starts with that. I always talk. Everyone has their own analogy. Always, because I'm old, I always use the tea kettle. When that tea kettle is on the stove and it's whistling, it's going to explode if you block that hole. And that's what you're doing if you don't write it, if you don't journal, you don't have a loved one, a mother, father, sister, brother, somebody to vent to, someone that will just let you vent for venting purposes. And on the apartment, sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes we're our own worst enemies to each other, and that's a shame. So for the new officer, the young officer who's starting their career, journal. For the person that's at the end of their career, they think they're done, realize it doesn't turn off like a light switch. If you have a career in this profession, then you care. And you're going to care when you're no longer wearing the badge and you no longer have the title and the name. You're still who you are, and get involved. When I first retired, I was part of 10 nonprofits. I narrowed it down to 5, but then I ended up becoming the board member of those 5. And I loved what I did. It was a good thing. I did that for, I've been retired now 10 years. I can't believe it's been 10 years.
Wow.
And so get involved, because you can't turn off like a light switch. You'll become angry, disgruntled, bitter. And we've seen that. We've seen cops like that, and you're 100% right. The cheers, where Norm comes in and everyone knows your name. Until they're gone. And then there's a new set of people and they don't know you. You lost your parking space. You don't have that badge number. You don't have that title of lieutenant, sergeant, detective. But you have that family. So make sure you don't abuse them during that journey that you're on. That's my best advice.
Good point. Thank you for sharing that. I know that did not fall on deaf ears. Absolutely. And want to give a shout out to Larry Average. Did I say that correctly? I'm sorry if I mispronounced it. He's coming in saying hi, Darren. I believe he's a friend of yours.
And a gifted writer. He actually is a writer and author, unlike myself. Yeah.
Nice. Hey, well, Darren, we had a wonderful podcast, and we had talked about many things. I enjoyed having you on here. You're a great guest to have. You've got a humorous spirit. You can tell it's a helpful spirit. You can tell you love to give. This was very fun. This was. I wish we could go on and on. I really wish we could.
We just will. Heck with the audience. Let's just keep going, buddy.
That's fine with me. That's fine with me. That definitely gonna get you back on the show for for book 2 and book 3, and I'm definitely gonna experience that, and we're gonna keep moving this thing forward. But through the course of conversation, in the course of interviewing, I may have forgot to ask some questions, or I may have jogged your memory and things that you may wanted to share with the world, or something that you wanted to get out. Is there anything else that you wanted to express to any of the listeners right now, or anyone that may be watching the replay right now? The floor is yours.
One thing that I didn't talk about was FRN, First Responders Network. It is a entertainment platform for us. It is a home for heroes.
Gotcha.
Axon, which is the body cameras, the taser, right? Axon created this during the 2020 insanity. They wanted to create a entertainment where truth could come out, where you could see the reality of what occurs. So it's First Responders Network. And there you'll see the Badge Boys show. You'll see other shows. My new gig, which is the Badge Zone, will be there. It's kind of like a Twilight Zone that involves cops and anyone with a badge. So First Responders Network, I can't give them enough plug. And they're just a wonderful place to share stories. And check it out. It's free.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely will. Got to have those moments. It's nice to have something where you don't want to go to on YouTube or any other social media platform or watch the news and always constantly see something negative. And not only negative with the public, you don't always want to see something negative with LEOs or first responders as well. You kind of want to laugh. You want to enjoy the stories. You want to actually, you know what? I'm in Pennsylvania and you're in Arizona, and I feel you. We made a connection, and you're like, I get it. And you hear the stories, and as you're just explaining stories or situations, I can fill in the blanks with local faces here of people that I know that could actually fit the bill there 100%. It's a great thing. So I definitely will be checking that out. Excuse me, man. You can't be doing that while you're on live TV.
We just did.
Yeah, good choice. Yeah, we had a great time. I definitely will be getting you back on here. I got people behind the screens looking at me. But it's all fun. It's all love, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Thank you guys for tuning in. This is Black and Blue. We go live at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, once a week, each week. And when we go live with a special guest on their trainings, experiences, or publications, whether they're in law enforcement or a first responder. And make sure that you hit that like button on the way out. Make sure that you tag, like, and share this with your friends and family so we can get that information out there. Make sure you check out the book, Twisted But True. I got mine on Audible, but I know this on Amazon as well. Very easy to find. Look up Darren Burch. Give him a review after you hear the book or actually read it, whichever one you're going to do. Make sure you guys check that out. Check him out. Check out his podcast because you're going to enjoy it. I enjoyed having you on the show as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's been absolutely an honor and a pleasure.
Thank you. Definitely. Absolutely. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we're going to leave with the Sergeant Be Safe commercial because he said he's got to have the last word. So he's going to come in with the commercial, and we will see you guys next week. All right. Here's a good one. I'm in 5, 4, 3. Yep, there it is.
Ooh, look at all the pretty butterflies in the sky. I guess I'll just cross the street here.
Oh, good. Light's green. I'm glad I can go. Oh my gosh, watch out.
Sergeant, be safe, be small, baby. Megan, watch out for that car. I got you.
Oh, geez. I didn't even see that car coming.
Oh my gosh, are you two okay?
Yes, we're okay. Megan, you have to do a better job paying attention.
I just wanted to cross the street.
I didn't see you walking there.
Megan, you just can't cross in the middle of the street. You have to go to the intersections and use the proper crosswalks. Wait for traffic to clear and then go. If you don't follow these simple directions, you could get a ticket for jaywalking, or worse, be hit by a car and seriously injured.
I'll be more careful from now on. Ooh! Look at the other butterfly!
Oh my goodness.
Sergeant Be Safe, you are the best.
This is very true. Thank you very much. I did have to turn on supersonic beast mode to jump and get Megan out of the way. Remember, folks, look both ways before crossing the street and wait till the intersection's clear and cross at the crosswalks. And that's your tip of the day to get you on your way.